I'm here with Sven Groten from the BJJ Globetrotter Camp in Iceland. Sven is a Luta Livre Black Belt and BJJ Purple Belt. Surprisingly, I have no idea how. So yeah, quick rundown of how you got here, what you've done in the past, how people know you.
Yeah, I came to Globetrotter Camp by accident. A couple of my teammates, I think it was, should have been 4 years ago or something. They went to a camp and someone dropped out and they asked me if I want to step in. So the Luven camp 4 years ago or something was my first camp as participant, first entry into Globetrotters. And then I had, I think, another 2 as a participant before I got my black belt, and then switched over to the instructor side. And Heidelberg 2 years ago was my first camp as instructor.
Yeah.
That's my second time Iceland now.
So, like I said, you're a black belt in Luta Livre. So, for people who may not have heard of that term or have weird ideas of like Mexican masks and get it completely wrong, what would you say the difference then is between the traditional idea of BJJ, Luta Livre, and modern BJJ, like sport BJJ and Luta Livre?
I think there's 2 key differences. One is Luta Livre has never had a gi, so there's never been gi Luta Livre. It's always been no gi grappling. And the other is kind of historical. Luta Livre used to be like the dirty little nephew of Jiu-Jitsu. From what I know, back in the starting days of Jiu-Jitsu, Luta Livre was kind of the poor man's version of it. It kind of derived more from catch wrestling than BJJ, coming from Japanese martial arts. And the good thing is they didn't wear gi, so it was easier for the poor man to enter because you didn't have to buy that expensive kimono. And back in the days, there has been a huge fight and dojo storms back and forth between BJJ and Luta Livre, and even there's that one relatively famous scene of Hansel Gracie fighting someone.
Tattoo or something like that.
Yeah, it was tattoo in a cage fighting match, and people were storming the cage, and the lights went off and went out, and everything broke out into a giant brawl. Yeah. That was like the pinnacle of the war between Luta Livre and Jiu-Jitsu, and after that I think it kind of calmed down. But also like Hickson and Hansel, they had a couple of run-ins with those guys back in the days. So that's like the historic background. The other thing, of course, is it has always been no-gi. So traditionally, leg locks have always been a part of Luta Livre. There hasn't been that weird banning of leg locks that has been so prevalent in Jiu-Jitsu, and still in some parts is. They were just one technique, just like any other. But today, it's all no-gi grappling. I call what I do Jiu-Jitsu, and I don't think there's a difference. And the thing is, Luta Livre has always been smaller, so there has been kind of less brain power in it, less people in it, less field to experiment. So that's, I think, what it kind of fell behind BJJ. Yeah. And even if in like the field of leg locks, which used to be the strong suit of Luta Livre, now the leading teams in the world are not Luta Livre teams.
Yeah. So, which is, again, like I said, there's the historical precedent. Like catch wrestling has its basis back in the UK, and it had a similar history in that it was the poor mining towns that stuck to catch wrestling after they got out of the mines. Also, that traveled over to Brazil, and that kind of same mentality then persisted, where you had the middle class people who could afford gi did BJJ or Jiu-Jitsu, and the poor kids did Luta Livre. It's exactly the same in the UK. I think that's why I don't know how much truth there is to it, but leg locks was seen as the poor man's technique. Because the poor kids doing leg locks, the Jiu-Jitsu schools avoided them, so if they lost to a leg lock, it was done by a poor kid. So automatically had that classism kind of thrust upon it. Which then makes it kind of odd that the majority wear no-gi these days. Like no-gi BJJ is a lot smaller these days compared to what it used to be. Like no one cares about no-gi IBJJF rules. They're smaller competitions. Like true, like some of the top athletes like Gordon Ryan will enter and just smash them, but it's not what people are interested in. Like no one wants to see Mr. Danaher's input when it comes to IBJJF no-gi. It's like let's do heel hooks, which now it's marketing. Like Luta Livre was here a long time ago doing that exact thing, and it was BJJ looking down upon what Luta Livre did, and now they've completely changed their minds and they've come through with heel hooks are okay in certain situations, and Luta Livre gets left alone again. And that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think there'll be just convergence at some point where amongst grappling, like wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu, Luta Livre, do you think they'll just like people ignore these different kind of ways of explaining it and just eventually just call it grappling? Or do you think marketing will win?
Well, it's only the marketing point. I think the just jiu-jitsu, even the B of it kind of falls off more and more.
Yeah.
It's more and more jiu-jitsu and not Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I think that grappling or submission grappling and Brazilian jiu-jitsu will be the two terms that will be thrown around the most. Probably it will always be called jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I don't really care about the nomenclature too much. I usually call what I do jiu-jitsu just because I always have to explain what Luta Livre is, and usually I don't have to explain what jiu-jitsu is. And also for me the thing is, quite honestly, I learned I'm way more heavily influenced by people that themselves do jiu-jitsu than I have had people that do or did Luta Livre. So it's kind of, it would be weird for me to say that what I did is Luta Livre when that's not actually where I learned it, or who's the figures that I look up to.
And that's why going back to what I said at the beginning, like you're a Luta Livre black belt and a jiu-jitsu purple belt. And it's like, almost that doesn't make sense in that way.
It doesn't really make sense.
Exactly. All I said, the thing that influenced your no-gi grappling most of jiu-jitsu, gave you a black belt in Luta Livre, yet you're still a black belt now.
So that story is the coaches I had, or let's say the person that promoted me is a Luta Livre black belt himself, and so I actually have never been a blue belt, because the first team I was in we didn't promote at all, and I switched teams, and I was when I went there I was promoted purple, then brown and black under the same person, and I just never had a coach that did jiu-jitsu, and then I was just randomly pretty much on a seminar promoted to blue belt by some guy from Brazil, because I thought it would be appropriate to wear a white belt in the gi, because that's pretty much me leaving. By the time I did that, now I just wear my black belt when I wear a gi, I just wear my Luta Livre belt on a gi because I don't really care. But by the time I thought, I probably have to wear a white belt when I wear a gi, so I did that. And the guys from the road talked to me, and by the time I was a purple belt in Luta Livre, I told him that. And then he just gave me blue belt because he thought it was bullshit that I would run on the white belt. Then I got my purple at a Globetrotter Camp.
When I was that, as one of the instructors when we
you were there. I got my purple belt there, and then I found also through Globetrotters I found Aaron Millen from Portland, Oregon, and asked him, because he's probably the most inspiring person and best teacher I've probably ever met throughout all the years, and I asked him if he wanted to be my mentor, however this may look, and also promote me from now on. And as he's in Portland, Oregon, and I'm in Cologne, Germany, and also there's this weird pandemic going around, we didn't meet for a while, but I hope that one day I'll be also a jiu-jitsu black belt under Aaron Millen, so that, well, as I said, I call what I do jiu-jitsu, but that's like the final straw that's needed to, even in the eyes of anyone, kind of make it legitimate that I say that.
Yeah, because I think, watching you roll this camp and punish most of the people here, to say you're the purple belt doing it would be insulting. It makes a mockery of the whole system. So you literally just have finished a class on ankle lock, which which is then quite odd since we're talking about all this stuff and you went for a IBJJF legal class.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So can you just give a quick rundown of like the without shattering my feet, the breaking mechanics that you went through in that class? Like,
Yeah, sure.
So why you did ankle locks? Why you want to cover that? And then.
Yeah, I wanted to cover them because they, with big heel lock hype, and heel locks being the go-to leg lock for most people, I think ankle locks are kind of overlooked sometimes.
Yeah.
They become some kind of old school technique, just like knee bars and toe holds. It's all heel locks now. But there's just angles and proper defenses to heel hooks or defensive reactions to heel hooks that lead into ankle locks. And there's an angle where there are ankle locks but no heel hooks. So I think it's stupid to just ignore them. It's like that you're missing a certain area of angles where there's only ankle locks to attack. And also I think they're just very powerful submissions, and my idea was that's why the class was for 4.5 ankle locks. I think there's 4.5 key ways to finish them, and whenever I see people going for ankle locks, oftentimes you can kind of tell that they don't exactly know what it is they're going for. They're just squeezing or bending the foot in some way, and but they couldn't probably really tell you what it actually is they're trying to accomplish, and that's why I tried to break that down. Again, that's heavily influenced by Aaron, who's one of the best ankle-lockers I've ever seen, but kind of my version of it, my adaptation of it.
Which foot do you want to show?
This one's good. Okay. One towards camera. So the first breaking or the first mechanic of finishing I want to go to is I want to go for is pretty much leaves the ankle itself alone and is purely a clean pressure on the Achilles. That's why you get a lot of taps with people that are not that resistant yet and are kind of panicking, but it's a good starting off point for the rest of them. So if we start in our regular ashi, there's problems to solve right away. To get to it, first, I don't want your knee to point upwards. I want your knee to point parallel or even into the mat. Second, there's some gap right now between your heel and my ribs. I don't want that. I want your foot cleanly aligned with my upper body. And also my grip, usually when I get into it, is not perpendicular, and I don't really have a good solid bite with the bony part of my forearm on your Achilles. So I'm kind of solving all those problems with the same thing. I choose a guillotine grip. I think the guillotine grip is far superior to a figure 4 leg grip for various reasons. And I in kind of a rocking the baby motion, I will bring my elbow out and the other elbow on the inside of your leg here. This feels counterintuitive because I might have think that I'm kind of releasing your leg, but you can't really retract it. It's closely attached to it. The bony part of my forearm is on your Achilles, and I'm biting into it. And now in a straight line, I'm bringing my elbow back to my hip and posting on the point of my elbow. This turns your knee towards the camera. It's no longer pointing upwards now. Your heel is pressuring into my rib, and I'm at least almost perpendicular, very close to perpendicular. And from here, it's pretty easy to just bring my shoulder down and make myself compact, and now just cleanly go for a finish on the Achilles first. So that's the first. The second and a half finish is pulling the joint apart. So I'm still have the same grip, and I'm pulling the joint out of the socket.
Yep.
I could it's possible to just finish with that by ripping the foot out of the pocket.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it sucks. But usually you don't only do that, so I pull it out of the socket, and then I will, in kind of like a Mr. Olympia pose, use my shoulder to bring your foot backwards, and now my hip up above your knee, and use my hip and shoulder in unison to overextend your foot. So that's 2 and 2.5, so they kind of go together. If for whatever reason that doesn't work, or it's just not the finish I prefer, the one that Craig Jones made kind of popular is the sideways finish. That's similar to a steamer lock or a toe hold. For this, I don't need the secondary arm on the actual grip. I will use it as a post and flap my elbow back and bend, put as much of a bend in your knee as possible, and also bring the foot close to your butt. And then, like an airplane flying a curve, I will push my upper body through your ankle sideways, and my shoulder will take your toes up towards your butt.
You're not go that far.
So 1 is just pressure, 2 is pulling and overextending, 3 is this, and 4, that's not, I don't think that's the strongest finish. It's just a good way to practice the positioning of your foot in my armpit. I will try and cover the side of your big toe and the bridge of your foot with the edge of my leg there. And then I push my hip up and my body weight over my shoulder, so that kind of my body weight collapses into your foot and your foot collapses under my body weight. So I lay on top of it, flap my elbow back and my leg. Yeah, I kind of make a taco out of your foot.
Yeah,
so I'm making your pinky say hi to your big toe, and well, not what a foot is supposed to do. So this is for me the 4.5 major ways to finish on an ankle lock. And you should be able to target those to at least to know which one you're actually going for, and the more precise you're on them, the more you can play back and forth and see how people react to them. And sometimes there's people just stupidly resistant to one of the ways, but usually not to all of them.
Yeah, that's what I said. It was very interesting watching your class because historically I said the ankle locks are very misunderstood technique. It's just the Achilles. It's maybe the naming of it doesn't help. It's just the Achilles lock. It hurts white belts and then kind of gets forgotten forever. People just want to do the horrible stuff from there on in. But with the advent of the heel hook and it becoming so prevalent and everyone learning the different escapes and being super aware, the ankle lock I think is probably one of my go-to leg locks these days. No one defends it because they think it doesn't exist.
It's actually a good leg lock against good leg lockers.
It is, yeah.
Because the proper way of adding your heel to an outside heel hook, for example, is to compress it against your ribs. And that's exactly where I want it for an ankle lock.
Yeah. So a quick show that. Just
whenever I want to dig for the heel, the appropriate thing for you to do is to heel step and put it to my inside. Yeah. And now you did what was a problem for me previously when we did ankle locks. You pointed your knee towards the camera and you brought your heel to me. So I have way less work to do on digging for the heel. The more you hide it, the easier it will be for me to just straight into a solid ankle lock grip. Even if that you are afraid of that ankle lock, it will probably expose the heel again, because if you try and boot through, this would give me a bite on the heel right away.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's if I didn't have an ankle lock, I would have no choice but to go digging for that heel and maybe lose your leg, or just change plans altogether. But I have a follow-up for your appropriate response to my heel hook threat.
Yeah.
So this is what I meant by that. There's an angle where there's a place for only the ankle lock. There's no other submission in this particular case unless I get to the heel.
Yeah.
There's ways to dig for it, but I might as well go for another thing and make you expose it again by moving through or whatever, or finish the ankle lock.
There was a class of Daniel Capino, I think it was, at one of the camps last year. We did a similar kind of ankle lock where someone was defending the heel hook and punting their toes. Instead of actually going around the ankle with his hand, he just uses his elbow. So if you can't even dig, just
driving it into the bridge of the foot. Driving it into there.
Do you want to do it?
You were probably talking about this.
Yeah. You try and ankle lock with that.
That's
one of my favourite ankle locks. So I love it when, especially people try and point the toes in the heel hook and it's just doing have to amend everything. But I don't even use my elbow so much. I actually use my hip as the connection to the back of the Achilles, and then use that to then put the same stress that you use.
That as lever.
Yeah, that's the arch and the fulcrum point. I'll be bent over. So have you got any more classes this camp, or is that what you've done?
That was my third. It's Friday and we're almost done with classes at all. There's a couple of other classes running. I had 3 this camp, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
The reason it's not so cool.
No,
because there's not that many instructors because of COVID, but I got the chance to teach 3 classes, and that was the final for the week.
Well, I'm kind of glad we got a recording of this one because it was a really cool class, and I said quite a few people, especially black belts, came up to you afterwards and said that was a good class. So I'm kind of glad we recorded it. But yeah, thank you. I'm sure we'll
Thank you.
make some horrible phrases for the rest of the day.